this symbology, it's quote unquote hidden in plain sight, end quote. So certain predecessorial teachers came to us to kind of make us aware of how the symbolism we're living with it, like like it's just like basic fucking like Instagram memes of like, okay, this symbol means this, and there's many examples if you just Pinterest stuff. But maybe that maybe the infinity symbol, maybe that symbol is the shape of the solar system, right? Because if it's the shape of the solar system, it's going through some cyclical movement, and within that cyclical movement, for it to like gain traction to go to an infinity, it would have to like you know be in correspondence to a geometrical shape that could contain quote unquote said infinity, end quote. But it's like, but even within that there's like micro transformation, and there's a micro transformation within the micro transformation, until some higher beings ordain a certain new species to take hold of a certain energy charge to be inhabited into a new vessel, the human, because God simultaneously is everybody, but he's not everybody. Everybody is of him, or everybody is not of him, or he has his own niche. He has his own individual line of his own niche self, right? Because like all of these great ascended masters, you could say the one is the many and the many is the one, right? That is true and relative to the dimension that it's in, right? But it's also true that it that's a big context thing, because how the many could be the one, all of those manys, they're not all coming from the same one. They're coming from a different one, right? So since they're coming from a different one, we started where we started, right? And since we started where we started, the different ones, they have unique ones based on their temperament, right? So since there's a whole unique one, so that unique individualized unique temperament, it is of God, but it's not exactly God, because it's a division of God. So here's an example that we could crack down and investigate within the Vedas. They say Surya is, certain other beings, but I think Surya is a proxy god of the big, of the big three. I think it's a ladder expansion expression of just an individualized crux threshold entity, where the original three, they kind of, their energies combined, and they make a ladder expression of a threshold energy of a solar plexus energy, where they make an epicenter energy. So it's not that Surya is, you know, Rudra, Brahma, or Narayana. It's not that Surya is any of those. It's of those, and it's its own thing, But it's still, they're all still from the same source, though. So, and then from those beings, they all then they have their own unique many from their one, right? So like someone would say like Surya is like, Narayana, Rudra, or Brahma. That's, I think that's modestly, I think that's incorrect, because they have different unique functions and starting points, but obviously they come from the same source in a different niche way. So I'm just breaking it down casually and advancedly, because obviously like the quote unquote Vedas, end quote, they've been studied for a long, long, long time, and they're being resurfaced and recirculated within this new human awareness and consciousness. And as they resurfaced towards, the new revolutionary humans, whenever that happened, somewhere in the 1800s, when we caught wind of a unique start of a new intelligence and a new, I'm talking on the phone, but whatever. But anyways, yeah, people will they will they will we all start where we start, right? And since we start from where we start, we have a chance to also ask the source for help or not. But people are in their own quote unquote energy dislikings or likings, end quote, because they have accumulated their own non-source self, and not good, not bad. There's just a casual level of not knowingness, and within that not knowingness, people are just pretty much people are just literally adapting to accept their selves, their forgotten selves, their new selves, simultaneously coming out of a dark age of their track record of their individual forever self, because it's a forever self. You're always going to be you, and the original supreme God source, he's gonna have the track record of everybody and everything. But we are quote unquote childish spirit, end quote, we're disdain to that, because that's just the growing psychological pains of just the standard spirit, But like, so now we have a new resonance and a new correlation of how we landed where we landed, because if your sun sign is this, that, and the third, you're kind of provoked to act in correspondence to the quote unquote sun lord, right? And then that sun lord also has a different, secret esoteric godhead according to human design. So there's two things that you're primarily like provoked by: your sun sign, and then your incarnation cross in human design. And obviously we could reference those notes later. So within those, we're getting life force from those energies, and those energies are in a certain house, and that's where we quote unquote energetically crawl back into to based on what house your sun is in. So if your sun is in that house, you're putting that energy into that house, and you're reverting, and on an unconscious quote unquote esoteric feminine level, end quote, your unconscious earth body, quote unquote feminine, end quote, the house, we're unconsciously reverting these sun energies towards certain houses, but we don't know that though, because it's a different type of astrology. So within all of that being said, it's like we landed where we landed, and now we have a new resonance based on our sun sign, and our sun sign is what we're working with this life, because that's where that's where our character was heading off towards to finish off from the last life. It resonated from wherever it was, and now it took a pivot, esoteric pivot turn, to have this sun sign, because you need to work on this for your character, just for your general soul growth. So whatever sun sign you are, you're kind of being provoked by that sun lord, right? So within that sun lord energy, it's one of the quote unquote godheads, end quote. And within one of those godheads, based on the godhead you're working with, it's just a unique quote unquote superpower, right, end quote. And within that unique superpower, that has a unique relationship to the source, right? And I'm not naming any titles or names for the source. We're labeling the source as no labels, because we don't want to have biases like that. So since it's like that, then you could see, but like whatever's going towards more spiritual wholeness, then that planet, quote unquote planet, has more of a relationship with God, right? So your sun sign and how you're going back to your spiritual home, that's you're going to have like your basic forefront challenge is your sun lord, your sun sign, right? So within that sun sign, that that Surya imprint placement could be in one of the signs, right? And if it's in one of the signs of one of those signs has their own houses, and that Surya imprint it might be at the house of Surya, quote unquote Leo, right, end quote. So if you're that Leo, you're gonna have if your sun in Leo, then you have like an exalted sun, right? That's you. We're all using the sun, and the sun is at the house, is at the home. So you're gonna be feeling comfortable being the sun, right? You're going to be feeling comfortable being that, that energetic proxy energy of the gods, a combination of God energy, of like primal God energy, and you're going to use that character of primal god energy to like kind of carry the team, right? And then whatever house you, because we're all the signs on a feminine neutral level, and whatever house you have Leo in, then you could see like where your Surya house is, because the Surya is its own thing. It's the proxy god of the big three. And on a deeper esoteric level, the solar system is the sun opposed Saturn. And that's a fatty esoteric key. It is that because the sun is going through its own cyclical procession through 12 zodiac signs. And as it's going through 12 zodiac signs within different charting maps, it's opposed Saturn. And on the other side of this 3D reality, on a niche side, what's opposed to that on a certain substructure level within the bigger, greater solar system is this the Saturn region, because the sun and the Saturn, they're opposed within each other, and they're cycling through each other like an infinity symbol, right? Because that's the solar system. It's the infrastructure matrix of solar energy to see the solar energy, and then it's to see the quote unquote the machine land, Saturn. And within that, the solar system is consisting of all of these different elements within its own bigger substructure. And within that substructure, the sun is there going through its own. It's traveling through a different, because there's different contexts of the solar system. And as it's traveling through different contexts of the solar system, on one level, the sun is directly opposing Saturn, but those two together, the sun and the Saturn making up their own field of a solar system, they're only a certain level from a different tier of just the greater divine mother, right? And obviously on the underground, like there's big presentations, I could clear any confusion of that. So within that, as the sun is traveling through, the 12 houses in something of an infinity symbol, it's that solar energy is it's bringing that it's bringing that solar plexus energy towards a certain house of just a vessel, of a different dragon mother vessel, right? So within that dragon mother vessel, it's bringing the I had it differently in my mind earlier, but I might have already explained it. But as it's going through that, like there's just different angles to look at it, obviously. So as it's like, as the solar system is going through its precession in different cyclical orbits, there's just like different things opposing it in different ways, right? And as different things are opposing it in different ways, we're kind of just going along for the ride and going and following suit to that calendar within our new individual selves. So let me pause for a second, and I don't know how much time I got here, but pretty much, I just wanted to kind of like, for my own sake, I wanted to break the confusion with the whole, the Surya thing. It could be just like looked at as an energy thing, and obviously, people are gonna misinterpret it on how we're all of those we're all of those functions, and we're all of those attributes and components of these things. So it's not that we are specifically that or we're specifically not that. It's a little bit of both. We're working with those energies to just kind of further the evolution of the particular human being, and that human being is going through the macro structure of just what like a different of how a different evolution is taking place, and we're a reflection of that evolution on a microcosm level. And yeah, so it's just like looking at the solar system in different versions. So the solar system has different versions of itself, and I speak on it in the underground in a very precise way, because like I felt that I did the presentation. So in good timing, it will come when it comes, right? So within that good timing, there's I bring up the thing that the sun is opposed the Saturn thing, precisely because you know because like that's how like things have to be evened out, so, like it can't be too, like if something is too hot and there's something that's too cold, then they have to be placed in such a way in a different orbital clock where they could even themselves out, right? So as they're evening themselves out, you know the sun is like kind of like displaying a certain part within the solar system that has a certain, unique organization where different things flourish from that zodiac house system. And as different things flourish from that zodiac house system, those houses beam the earth from the planets that are in the house zodiac sign. They beam the earth, and we're affected by that earth, and the human has a unique resiliency to adapt towards these planetary energies that are in that thing, so this is just kind of like honoring the sun, and honoring this, and honoring our sun, and honoring the sun's relationship, to like, these other planets or these other beings, right? And these other beings, us having a unique relationship from our unconscious to conscious, however we do, and we could ignore them or not, we could forget them or not, or we could just do whatever we want, because we're in our own level of growth, right? And it's not necessarily linear, it's not necessarily a straight line, or it's not necessarily just a square, it's like it's an orbit of patterns, and it's an orbit of alchemies, and it's an orbit of energies, right? That's what the real spiritual soul evolution is. You have the best life ever.